Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GynoCast. My name is Dr. Eric Heegaard, obstetrician gynecologist, board certified, in fact. I'm here with Twila Dang, my co-host, my boss, my buddy, and we are talking today about...
I like how you just teed it up, like, okay, about. Okay, we're actually on a break right now. So if you're listening to this, we're not actually here. Mm-hmm. We're meditating somewhere, and we're working on new episodes. So in the meantime, we wanted to make sure we shared some information with you guys so that you don't feel like you're just waiting and waiting. We have things for you.
Exactly.
So today I actually had a question for you. I am a woman of a certain age. I go in for regular checkups. And this year I scheduled all of my checkups at once and then was promptly told that I did not need to come in for an annual pelvic exam, that I'm not supposed to get them every year anymore, that I'm not required to get them every year anymore, which
really?
I thought, is that so? And because because insurance companies like to charge you for things, I was wondering, my question to you was, one, is that accurate? And two, is this more of a function of the insurance companies not wanting to pay for things anymore?
I'm not sure about that, but it's not true. Okay. And first of all, I want to just compliment you on your outfit. For those of you who are not...
there you go.
I just got to tell you, we were talking a little bit before we got going about I was staring at Twila's T-shirt.
Yes, he was.
And because there's a picture on it, and I had to say, first of all, Twila, I'm not being inappropriate.
Yes.
I'm just staring at your T-shirt.
Yes.
Because I couldn't figure out what it was. It is a camo-colored superhero T-shirt with the Wolverine on it.
Yeah, it's a full picture, like a full action pose of Wolverine, the Marvel character, across his T-shirt. But the color palette is not the traditional color palette. It's actually a really dark, like green and yellow palette. So it does, from a distance, look like a camo shirt until you look at it up close.
Well, I will tell you this: that once a year, and sometimes twice, Twila, you don't know this about me.
Okay.
But I go out duck hunting.
Okay, wait, do you actually go duck hunting, or do you do the thing that I do when I say I'm going to go do certain activities where I just go be around the activity but I don't actually engage?
I go duck hunting,
okay.
And I was raised doing this, and
Do you actually catch ducks? Like, do you actually get them?
I have not been able to fly fast enough personally to catch a duck.
Okay.
I have shot at many ducks and hit a few by accident. And so
by accident?
I am the worst shot, Twila. I've got family members who are really hardcore and are great shots, and we do this. We have an annual get-together.
What do you do with the ducks when you get them?
You tear their necks out with your teeth.
Okay, stop that. I mean, like, do you eat them?
Yeah, we eat them.
Really?
Yeah. You want a
duck?
Like
big game? I mean,
they're not that big.
Well, my family would eat a duck. You know,
these are not pterodactyls. These things are the size of a mourning dove.
Remind me, I'll tell you about the big game dinner I went to in my meat eating days.
We are going to talk about pelvic.
Yes, we are. We really are.
So now we got to close the loop on this.
Okay.
So every year we have opening day of duck hunting, which I love.
Right.
But I realize as I get older and I get more kind of in tune with what I really enjoy is I like being there and I like making breakfast.
See, so you don't really care about the duck hunting. You like the camaraderie of the activity.
Yeah, I do.
That's me.
And so I'm actually considering for the first time this year, maybe not actually duck hunting. I hate getting up early, and I get up early enough in my life in general. We have to get up at the butt crack of dawn, right? Like 5 o'clock
before
in the morning.
Sun comes up, right?
And it is, and sometimes it's raining, and it's just terrible in some ways. But so we get up and I throw on my gear, which your shirt
my
would
shirt
be fine,
reminds me of it.
and we trudge out into the slough, the swamp, right? And we sit there and wait for these little things to fly in, and most of the time you can hardly see them because it's so dark, and that's when they fly, right? And then we blast away. Blast. And I'm such a bad shot that I have said many times when people say, how can you justify shooting those little poor things? And I say back, you ready for this? Those ducks are more likely to fly into a tree and kill themselves than for me to kill them by a shot. I'm doing them a favor by alerting.
They got a better chance of dying running from you.
That's right.
Than you shooting them.
They're looking over their shoulder. Wham! They run into an oak tree. So anyway, that's the kind of hunter I am. But I can tell you that shirt I could easily wear, and nobody would.
And nobody know. Okay, so that just means at some point I'm gonna have to put a photo of it in the syllabus.
I was just going to say that you got to put a photo.
I will.
Okay, pelvic exams.
Okay.
So I disagree completely.
Okay.
With what you just said.
Okay.
Which is rare. that I disagree with you. But
well, you're not disagreeing with me. You're disagreeing with my doctor's office, so I'm okay with that.
That the idea is that what you do not have to have every year is a pap smear.
Okay.
And so it just kind of and these guidelines are changing, and it's one of a few wonderful things in medicine where, as we know more about disease progression, that we can actually do more and make it safer. And so, don't you love that?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
This is not a very common thing, but so you don't have to have a pap smear, which is when you go and you have a speculum put in and you sample the cells on the outside of the cervix to look for cervical cancer.
Okay, so then riddle me this. If you don't have to have a pap smear every year, then where is the inherent benefit of having a pelvic exam if that's not a part of it?
Well, because the cervix is only one part of the anatomy and the pelvis. And so the annual exam, which is, so I'm really good. I'm not sure if I'm understanding exactly what you're saying, but I think I do, which is they're saying you don't need to have a gynecologic annual exam every year, which I really disagree with because
and here's the thing. I will caveat this as a non-medical person. Mm-hmm. As I was scheduling it, the way they phrased it to me was, you had an appointment last year and you had your pap smear and everything done. You actually don't need to do that again until like 2019. Yeah. So they may have been implying that I don't need another pap smear as opposed to an exam. And when I asked, so do I need this appointment? They kind of said, well, you don't have to. And then I said, okay, then I won't, because I was scheduling like 5 or 6 appointments across sort of the medical spectrum. And it was just like, that's one more place I don't have to be. So
and so that's a perfect example of communication from their side to you,
right?
Because there's a lot that we do when a woman comes in for an annual exam with their gynecologist that has very little to do with necessarily the pap smear. We talk about it's an opportunity to touch base on many, many, many levels, and the pap smear is just one small portion of that. And we'll talk about this on another show in more depth, but. So the pap smear you don't have to have every year most of the time. There are certain people who do need to have that procedure done, that test done, and those are people who are at high risk for cervical precancer or cancer. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you have had cancer in the past, cervical cancer, you should and have been treated, well, there's a number of different ways to treat it, but if you still have a cervix in place, and even if you don't sometimes, if there's just the top of the vagina, you should be coming in most of the time for a pap smear every year to look for recurrence and that sort of thing. And so people who've had severe precancer in the past, cervical cancer in the past, and some other rare situations should have pap smears every year. But as we understand how the progression from normal to cervical cancer occurs, we realize that we can spread this time out. And it doesn't need to be every year. And for many women who are otherwise healthy and haven't had severe precancers of their cervix, we can go every 3 years. And there may be a time when we can actually go farther than that.
Okay.
So they were correct in saying you don't necessarily need to have a pap smear. But the pelvic exam, we are not just, the cervix is just, as people know if they listen to the show, the bottom part of the uterus is part and parcel of the uterus, although pathologically or from a tissue type, it's different than the rest of the cervix. And so when you come in, we're feeling the cervix, of course, but we're also feeling the uterus, the ovaries. Sometimes we're doing rectal exams, which I probably shouldn't say because nobody else is ever going to come and do their annual exam again. But we don't do that very often either.
Right.
And so, but it's an opportunity to sit down and discuss how a woman is doing, whether she has concerns about her periods, pain, issues with their bladders, issues with their bowels, sexuality, etc., 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 menopausal symptoms, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to hit the buzzer.
Okay, beep.
I just did it.
Hit my table. Okay.
And say I disagree with what they said. There it is. I'm done.
Okay. Well, then what would you...
Now I'm going to go back to my mojito.
On the beach where you're relaxing.
I woke up long enough to answer this question. Now I'm going to go back to my mint mojito. And by the way, it's pronounced mojito.
Is it really? No, it isn't.
It's not.
I was like, no, it isn't. I was in
like
Spain. That's not what they said.
It's like fajita.
Yeah, no, it's not that either.
Yeah.
Although fajitas are an American concept, we made that.
No.
Yeah, it was invented by Mexican-American immigrants to satisfy the palate of Americans who weren't accessible to
No.
who couldn't find an entry point. Just like chop suey is not a Chinese invention. It was a Chinese immigrant invention for Americans who were intimidated by Chinese food.
You're probably going to say the same thing about chalupas now, that they're not really Mexican.
I don't know. Let me look those ones up.
I doubt they're not.
I know things.
I doubt they are.
I'd be knowing things.
Okay.
Yeah, on that note, we will be back very, very soon with new episodes. In the meantime, you should go to the website. Go to matriarchdm.com. The GynoCast has a page there. We also have a Facebook page. So go to Facebook and type in The GynoCast. It's a closed group. So just ask to join us. And we have lots of fun discussions. You can suggest topics for this upcoming season. You can ask for questions to be answered. We've actually been answering a lot of questions there lately.
That's right.
So we love having that opportunity. So thank you so much for doing it. And stay tuned.
Excuse me for just a second. Hey, sir, can we get another picture of mojitos over here? Twila's getting agitated. Mint mojitos and 2 big glasses of ice.
If people could really see what happens in this space, it's very funny.
Are we
Indeed. On that note,
we're in a basement, not on a beach, which is really sad.
Exactly. On that note, we will definitely see you soon.
Bye-bye.